So I think the global economic conditions are unfortunately not going to be improving a lot this coming year, at least in the first half of the year. What we expect, and this is from the Global Economic Prospect publication of the bank that just came out yesterday, is that actually the global economy is going to slow down a little bit more, soften a little bit more, before picking up and strengthening in 2025. This means that for the world, generally speaking, 2024 is still going to be a challenging year. In the case of Vietnam, if we look at the three major export markets, there's expectation that the U.S. economy will slow down compared to last year, that EU will grow but very, very small in a very kind of moderate way, and the Chinese economy is also going to expect it to slow down. So when we look at that on the external side, while we expect some recovery, some gentle or moderate recovery of exports going forward, we don't think there's going to be a major increase in exports or growth, for that matter, that is dependent on exports. I think what we are thinking is more that on the drivers on the domestic side, potentially consumption could be the major driver of growth. And if investment, domestic private investment, can be revived, improved, that also could be a good contributor to economic growth. Given this reality, I think it's important for the government to continue providing fiscal policy, supportive fiscal policy, including, for example, public investment that would then help support aggregate demand in 2024. So I think from what I understand, from what we see in the numbers, there was a major contraction in exports last year, in the second and third, into the second quarter of last year. And that, of course, affected economic growth overall in the quarter. But then what we've seen is that over the past 6 months, the last 6 months of the year, the second half of the year, there was this picking up, this moderate recovery, and basically growth restarting or moderate recovery in exports, but also in manufacturing exports. And the numbers we're seeing in the fourth quarter appear to be associated with the recovery of exports in the last quarter of the year, mostly. So that's where the growth is coming from, apparently. But from what I understand, GSO also updated their growth numbers for all the quarters, not just the last quarter, yes. We think for now that, given the reality of the global economy, that it will be a challenging year still going ahead. We think that Vietnamese economy is going to do probably a little bit better than last year. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to grow at the rates we saw before COVID, like 6.5%, 7%, or the potential for the economic growth. That is basically the whole world is experiencing these challenges. It's not just Vietnam. And given what we have seen in the past several years, Vietnam's economy has actually done pretty well compared to the rest of the world, right? It's done remarkably well. But I think that for next year, it's going to still be, a bit better than last year, but not as high. We would like it to see eventually going back to 6.5, 7, yeah. Usually when we look at economic drivers for Vietnam, we have the external demand and then we have the domestic demand. And the external demand, we're expecting a moderate recovery of exports, so that's a positive sign for Vietnam. On the domestic side, you have basically domestic consumption, which we expect to hopefully moderately recover this year. There is a public investment, and then you have private investment, private domestic investment. And there, I think that it's really important for the government to see if they can help or adopt policies to help the real estate sector to recover, or put the current challenges behind them, because the fact that the real estate sector is in a slump is affecting investment, private investment, and also affecting construction sector, also affecting other sectors that basically are connected to real estate, right? So that helping resolve the sector's problem will help recovery of the investment sector, will also help generally, hopefully, economic growth in other sectors like constructions, like design and architecture and all of that. So the agriculture and forestry sector has always been a steady provider of economic growth. It's a very small sector in terms of growth, but it provides a lot of jobs and a lot of income for the people in the rural area. If one wants to see the agricultural sector blossom and provide much more in terms of economic growth, it would be very important to increase its technology, make it much more modern, make it much more sophisticated and technology-driven, promote more agribusiness and promote more productivity growth in the sector, so that then it could become a much more important contributor to economic growth going forward.